and informative answers. I'm speaking today on second reading because that's when we talk about the principle of the bill. And I've got a problem with the principle of the bill that I'm going to lay out here. I abstained on Bill C-59, which I think is also problematic for the same reasons. My own view has always been, since this new era in the Senate, to support, and it was for most of the time when I was with my friends and the Conservatives, was to support the government on financial items. I think that's in my view, that's the role of a senator, is to support the government in financial bills. But I can't support budget implementation acts anymore that are loaded with non-budget items. We're here on June the 19th, and it's like deja vu for me. I want to take us back 363 days to June 21st, 2023. We were considering Bill C-47, which was a Budget Implementation Act. It contained multiple items that had no connection to the budget of Canada. Some items clearly needed further study, amendments, or both. We had a spirited debate about this whole issue of amending, or what do we do? We're up against the wall for time. There's this shield, conventional shield. We decided to vote the bill and go home. That's what we did. And so that was then, and where are we now? We're in the same spot. The budget implementation arrived a few hours ago. There are a number of divisions that have no connection to the finances of Canada. We have criminal code amendments, which I know our legal committee finds deeply problematic. We've got items in there that have flaws or need more study or were too complicated or had subject matters that should be in standalone legislation. In fact, 6 out of the 10 committees that reported to National Finance and then through National Finance to us, 6 of the 10 had concerns about this very issue. We talked about time pressures as being a major problem with budget implementation acts. We talk about this hands-off pressure, the fact that we're completely discouraged from amending or dividing the bill in order to take the time with the various sections that we need, that need our attention, and where we could add some value and provide sober second thought. All those things Senator Lafreda alluded to, and we've talked about before here. We're in the same spot. So we're in the same spot such that I believe we're going to have a nice spirited debate like we're having here, and we're going to vote the bill and go home. That's what we're going to do. It's a little bit of a depressing end to what has been a very, I think, productive session that we've all put in. Work's been done, some terrific studies. We're starting to see a revival of our committees producing exceptional studies that are getting a lot of recognition. And we did consequential work on legislation. We spent a lot of time on private members' bills, both from the House and here, and there were some good bills that came through, and a lot that we improved as we studied them. What have we learned? What have we done? And what do we need to do if we're going to solve this problem? I think we learned a couple things. I certainly did. Number one, governments love this shortcut of using the Budget Implementation Act and putting in non-financial items in the BIA. Successive governments have been quite proactive in using this. I think the current government, left unchecked, will continue to use it, and I have no doubt that a potential future government will use it extensively in the future. So I think we're safe to say that we are living a sentence on these kinds of bills that from time to time will be worse than they are now, and maybe sometimes they'll be better if we do nothing. The second learning, and again, I think it's a confirmation, is that, for me, is that we in the Senate, by nature and by convention, have an absolute extreme aversion to use our constitutional tools to amend or delay or divide a bill in order to respond to what many of us view as an abusive process. We just won't do it. It's almost like an abusive relationship that we're stuck in. We've got this time-sensitive issue and the hands-off issue that has tied itself together in these budget implementation acts. That's what I think we've learned about ourselves, is that we really, really are not keen on using our normal legislative powers that we don't hesitate to use on other bills, because it's a budget bill, even though we know that is an absurdity, because the stuff we are focused on amending has nothing to do with the finances of the country. Nonetheless, that's where we are, and I think we've checked and double-checked over the last couple of years our gut on this, and we, in my view, this is an issue that we should not think is going to change. What's happened over the last year? What have we done in trying to grapple with this issue over the last year? Well, we passed a resolution tasking National Finance to study this issue and to report back. This specific issue, what can we do? What do they suggest we do in order to maximize the value that we can bring to this process? What changes to the process, or what changes to our process do we need to consider based on their best judgment, their experience, and everything that they have heard? We invited, as a number of us in the leadership crafted for the consideration and ultimately the acceptance of this chamber, we crafted the motion together, and we put it before us, before this chamber. The government we invited, and that was a recommendation of Senator Shugart that he made to me as we started this process. He said, try and involve the government. They probably will say no thanks. And they did. They said politely, no thanks. We don't have any interest in changing this. We'll leave it to you to see what you want to do. But we have that resolution. We had a report back date of the end of April. National Finance, I don't think there was any bad reason, but for good reasons, has said they need till the end of December to study it. We did that. It's a good first step. I think we have to acknowledge the government is paying increased attention to what we're doing over here as we try and grind through 700 pages and look at all of the divisions and try and parse what's being done. And as we flagged some issues in our pre-study, the government showed they were listening. They withdrew one of the divisions, and they made consequential amendments and clarifications to another division. It wasn't everything it should have been, in my opinion, but it was something we had not seen before. We talked about it as being something that pre-studies should generate a reaction from the government. It's a good idea, but I've never seen one in 13 years here. So there's some movement toward a solution, I think, and I take heart from that. I think we are coming to a crossroad, though, colleagues. I think we, over the course of this coming year, have two choices on how we want to deal with this chronic issue of non-financial items being in a Budget Implementation Act. And I take what Senator Lafreda said. There are a number of things that non-financial items that go into a Budget Implementation Act that are not big enough or important enough to be its own bill. And occasionally there may be time-sensitive things, but everything gets time-sensitive when it's in the government's bailiwick and they're looking to get it passed. But the fact is that I think there will always be a Division 4 with a bunch of items in it that are bits and bobs. But consequential non-financial is what I think we have to concern ourselves with. And the crossroads really, I think, is two roads. We can do nothing. We can do nothing other than complain every June. And that is a choice. We can make that choice. We can say, you know what? There's tradition, on the side of that is tradition. It's always been, it's ever thus, it's our lot in life. Fair enough. We can make that choice. And if that's what we want to do, let's make that choice and make it clear and eat our cooking for the next decade. If that's what we want to do, let's do that. We can have both hands tied behind our back, time and our legislative powers, and we can just take whatever the House of Commons gives us. But I think the other road really involves supporting and challenging the National Finance Committee as they go through a study process here to help us. I think there are a lot of things that they could look at, should look at, I have no doubt will look at, that can help us get through this and get back on the road to adding maximum value. I've got some ideas. I mean, the pre-study process, I think, could be far more robust. Where there's a triage at the front end, and it could start with the budget bill, because as we know, this government said if it isn't in the budget document, then it is, if it's in there, it's going to come in the BIA. So we can pour through not just the numbers when we see the budget, we should be pouring through all the annexes where there's the innocuous little sentence that turns into a 12-page piece of the budget in the back, like we had last year. And we should be anticipating what might come at National Finance, and they should be doing some triage on, what signals, early signals do we see here that we might want to flag? That's an idea that I think is worth studying. We could provide more support. We could demand more for our government leader and from our government leader. Government leader should be in cabinet. That's something that we could take as a position as a Senate and send that message to future prime ministers to say the government leader needs to be at the table. We heard a lot about the days of government leaders in the Senate and the frank and open conversations that were had around the cabinet table around timing, around bills, and the amount of time that we needed to do our work properly. That's something that just is an idea. But, we can strengthen the role of the government representative in the Senate, and in particular, the mirror role of the Senate representative in the cabinet. I think we can work to try and build some trust with the House of Commons on purpose. And I think it's especially important that we do that when new governments are around, that they understand where we are and how we are going to interact with them. And we do that in good faith, and we do it proactively. I think we should also define the circumstances clearly under which we would consider exercising our rights of amendment and of division and of delay. I think without that, we will always be subject to abuse of process or the temptation. So, if our national finance, and together with all of us, if we can find a better way forward, we'll be advancing Senate reform, and we'll be adding value for Canadians, and we'll be fulfilling our duty to provide proper, sober second thought. I know which road I want to take. I hope you do too. And I ask that you support and encourage our colleagues on national finance to do their best for us in the coming months. Thank you.